right. So we'll do the training today, which will be part one. We will not do a Wednesday recap. What we decided to do was break this one up because it's so important about how to convert these referrals into closes. I mean, guys, I'm so freaking excited about the training today. It's going to be a game changer for you. First, you got to be getting referrals, but a lot of y'all are getting the referrals, and only a few of you are having the conversions. So today and next week, Monday at 2:30, will be about converting your referrals into closes, and then we'll do a next Thursday recap. So you'll have today's training to be able to put in the field tomorrow, Wednesday, Friday, and then Monday until we get into Monday afternoon. You'll get the last half of it to be able to put in the field Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then next Thursday we'll do our recap, we'll do our celebration and our Q&A. So take good notes today. It is recorded. We will send it out for you to be able to watch later. But this is, guys, probably as good as the 5-step follow-up training we did, I don't know, 6-8 months ago. It's on the YouTube channel. If you're not going into those YouTube channels and rewatching some of these videos, that 5-step follow-up process, guys, I'm telling you, it will double your amount of closes if you're not using it, because half of our activity is follow-up. And if you will follow the 5-step follow-up process, I guarantee you it will increase your closes. Just like if you will follow today's training on converting those referrals into closes, I guarantee you it will increase your closes. And at the end of the day, the way you increase your comp is to increase your production. And you increase your production by increasing your enrollments. And you increase your enrollments by increasing your cases closed. So, with that, I see your screen's up, Bruce. I'm going to shut up and give it to you. And yeah, let's go with this.
Let's go, baby. What a day. What a day. Listen, I'll tell you all this. The new year is upon us. And so, one of the biggest things we want to make sure we keep in the forefront of our minds as a team is referral gathering and referral working. I think many times we tend to really focus on making sure that we're hitting our commitment number. And I think those are definitely pieces that are essential. But the other way that you can multiply and exponentially increase your success is by making sure that this is part of your day-to-day practice as well. So last week, we really went over the times in which we need to be asking for referrals. And after really going over that training, we were able to find that there's a lot of opportunity in when you should be asking. We did a training with Tina Nichols' team later one evening, and they had the question is, how should I be asking for referrals from gatekeepers? And of course, we did a really good segment on that. And, we'll definitely go into some of that more during later trainings. But today, thank you all for joining in. We're going to be talking about working referrals. And when I go over this, I want to keep the goals in mind. Goals are so important because it's going to take a team to achieve these goals. And some of you are going to be looking at this number and it's going to be a little, you're going to be like, wow, that's a pretty big number. But I'm going to break it down for you. And this is going to be something that everybody needs to know. So the first thing we need to make sure that we aim for is all of this is for a purpose, and that's to reach 45 closed cases every single week. All right, that is a big goal. We currently are sitting at 12 closes a week. And so our goal is to increase our percentage of cases that we're closing, right? And I'm going to go over some data to remind you about why this is so important on referral gathering. And the way we're going to get the 45 closes a week is that each member on the team is closing 2 closes every single month minimum. That's about a case of closed every 2 weeks. One of the things I wanted to recap with you, of course, is making it a standard when if and when you're working a house account or any re-enrollments for that matter, make sure you're making it a standard to strive for 3 referrals. Now, John, I wanted to come in and, of course, connect with you because I wanted to share some good news. We were able to, of course, take care of over 80% of your people. That means an 80% participation. And, with all that considered, John, most of the clients that we service that get this type of result typically refer 3 to 5 people. And so I wanted to come to you today to ask you, who do you know in the area that owns a business here in the city of Orlando or here nearby? And, a lot of this, we've got a ton of house accounts. So making it a standard of collecting a minimum of 3 referrals or just referral collecting in general will definitely put us on the right track of getting to 45 closed cases a week. So the other goal is we want to create a culture of all of this, right? And a lot of this is going to be based on how do we see referral gathering as value. And our goal, I would say a solid goal or timeline, if all of us, when we all work together, I think a good way to have this April 1st and or the beginning of the second quarter. Again, some of you are thinking, yeah, this is pretty big. This is pretty aggressive. That's the point. We want to be thinking big. We want to have big goals that scare us. And the good news is we've got a plan and we've got strategy and technique to help us get there. So let's start talking about a reminder about the why. Referrals have a 30% higher chance of conversion. This was a Heinz marketing study that was done. And the other piece of information I want to put in your mind is 84% of business to business decision makers start the buying process with a referral, and companies with referral programs report 71% higher conversion rates. The numbers do not lie. This is the fact here. The other piece I wanted to put in front of you is 59% of companies with referral programs in place have higher lifetime value clients. What does that mean? That means clients that allow us to come back in for renewal, right? For our annual enrollments, for any kind of future opportunities. It all stems from, of course, the referral gathering process. And the other thing that really drove my attention to this was this last one here, and that's 69% of the report had faster closing cycles. Think about that, right? If right now just doing walk-ins is getting us 100 walk-ins per closed case, I mean, think about the amount of closes. I mean, just cutting that down by 70, almost 70% because of how we're collecting referrals on the front end. So now that we understand the facts here, I want to give you one last piece to remind you about how important this is and how we're going to stay and having the edge in this competitive market. Only 30% of business to business companies have a formalized referral program. What does that mean? That means 70% of businesses that are in our line of work don't have a structured focus on collecting referrals, right? I think it was, there was a study that was done and it was, I forgot the source, but it said that 90% of business owners are willing to give referrals, but only 11% of professionals even ask. Only 11% of professionals are asking. So now that you know the numbers, let's talk about how we're going to start working referrals, right? A little bit more in detail. I'm going to break it up by gatekeeper approach and decision maker approach. A lot of this is going to be pretty simple. Not a whole lot of difference from what you're doing with the script, but I want to just put it in front of you and just have more dialogue on this. But just remember, referral gathering is only as good as your ability is to stay consistent on it, right? Collecting a referral a month is not going to get you the results. So you just got to make sure you're practicing it and doing it every single day. That way you can open up more opportunity for yourself. All right, so let's talk right into it. How to approach gatekeepers once you've collected a referral. When you're getting into this situation, you don't want to necessarily approach it right off the bat, letting them know that you're referred over by somebody. Typically, of course, you want to keep it pretty traditional because you just never know if the gatekeeper is just going to get right up and get the DM for you by using the traditional script. Of course, when I'm coming in, hey, good morning, you must be Brian. Good to meet you, my man. Would you do me a favor and let John know that Bruce is here? Brian, of course, is going to ask me, was he expecting you? I just needed to speak to John directly. Would you let him know that Bruce is here? Thank you. What is this regarding? Actually, I was referred over by John or Jenny over at 123 Plumbing, and he told me to speak to John. Would you let him know that I'm here? Right? The reason why we want to make sure that you, of course, are coming in and using the traditional script is something we're already known to do. So not a whole lot changes, but if they're asking you, what is this regarding? That's when you utilize that you were referred over by John over at 123 Towing, and he told me to speak to John directly. Would you let him know that I'm here? Okay, it's that simple. Now, that's just the gatekeeper portion. Let's move into the next section, which is the decision maker, right? So now that I've got John, let's say the gatekeeper did get up and grab John for me. One of the things we talked about in the last training was a golden ticket. If applicable, that's one of the first things I'm starting the conversation with a business owner, right? So I'm going, hey, John, good to see you, my man. My name is Bruce. I was actually doing some research, and I noticed that you're actually one of the biggest producers of X production. What's been some contributing factors to your success here in the recent years? Awesome, man. Well, hey, listen, I wanted to bring this to your attention, man. I've got a card here from John over at 123 Towing. Here's just a business card of his that he actually wrote a little note for you. Because again, my name is Bruce. I'm with Global Life Liberty National Division. I've actually been working with John over at 123 Towing, and they recommended that I speak to you. I work with employers and helping them provide valuable benefits to their employees while creating a tax savings for the company at no cost to the business. I realize you may be busy, but it's now a good time. Now, something you want to make sure that you're doing, here's another little pro tip here is, let's say you did do that and they give you an objection. Something to remember is when I'm using the rebuttals is hey, John, I'm glad you brought that up. As a matter of fact, John had that same concern, right? I'm referring to the person that I got referred by when I'm handling the objections, right? And I'm using terminology like, this is how I've been able to help John or Jenny over at 123 Towing with this particular thing. And of course they get any other objection, you can then say, I'm not surprised to hear that, John. Jenny felt the same way before working with us, right? So the small twist here is I'm using my objections, my rebuttals to the objections, but I'm incorporating the person that referred me as a prime example of how we were able to address a similar concern. We overcame that concern, and it turned out to be an amazing partnership. It only takes a few minutes to go over with you, John. Is now a good time? So, again, pretty simple. I don't think it's going to necessarily be a challenge to get this implemented in your current practice, but I wanted to help you understand how the terminology goes when using the referral and working the referral from an approach standpoint. Okay. A couple of things I also want to actually got ahead of myself earlier is 91%. And I mentioned this is from Dale Carnegie. 91% of customers say they'd give referrals, but only 11% of sales professionals ask. So we talked about the approach, and I'm going to go back to it once again. So when you're talking to the gatekeeper, your traditional approach, according to the script. However, when the gatekeeper is asking you, what is this regarding? We typically say what? Oh, it's actually regarding a Worksite Advantage program. That's why I really need to speak to John directly. Would you let him know that I'm here? However, if it's a referral that you're approaching, when they ask you, what is this regarding? You can, of course, use the following script here. Actually, I was referred over by Joe over at 123 Towing, and he told me to speak to Brian. Would you let him know that I'm here to speak to him? The fact that you're being referred in itself already gives you more density and more effectiveness in getting to the decision maker in this particular area. The other piece, I just want to recap one more time here is, of course, if applicable, the golden ticket is one of the best ways to, of course, start the 30, before you really get into the 30-second commercial, make sure you start with rapport using research. Then, of course, bring up, because when you're going into the rapport using the research, you're probably having them be wondering, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about, but what is this about? He knows about my business, but why is he here? And of course, after I've built rapport using the research, I'm then going to, of course, make the conversation about the golden ticket, right? Which a golden ticket is a business card. It could be a little piece of lined paper, something along the lines that, you ask the business owner, hey, John, real quick, I've got a few businesses I'm going to be stopping in. Who do you know in the area that owns a business? Oh, okay, great. Hey, would you do me a favor and just write a 1 to 2 sentence recommendation with, of course, it could be on your business card, whatever that works. Could you do that for me? Okay, perfect. Now that I've got that, I'm now going into that referral and I'm using the golden ticket as the next piece of our conversation that'll then help me segue into what I'm here for, which is to help you provide valuable benefits to your employees at no cost while also helping you save on some valuable taxes or some tax savings. All right. Now, when you're handling objections, make sure you're utilizing similar interactions or similar similarities when partnering with the previous person that you are getting referred by, right? Hey, listen, John, I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually the same thing that John had a concern about before working with me personally. And something that I told him is that service is definitely a big part of any benefit program, and it's certainly something we take a lot of pride in. As a matter of fact, getting to sit down with his employees, we actually had over 80% of his team participate in what we had to offer. And of course, definitely it only takes a few minutes to show you how we're different, how we've been able to do that for them. Maybe we step into your office. Name dropping is so effective. I know I've had several conversations with leadership here in this office about how referral gathering has been a contributor that closes in the just the month of December alone. And so make sure that we're understanding the gatekeeper, traditional. The only difference is that when they're asking, what is this regarding or what is this about? That's when we don't bring up the worksite advantage. We bring up, actually, John is over at 123 Tony had referred me over to John, told me to speak to him. Would you let him know that I'm here? Right. Then from there, when you're talking to the decision maker, if you don't have a golden ticket, of course, just let it. So, John, good to see you again. My name is Bruce. I did some research on your business, my man, and saw that you're actually this, and this. And as a matter of fact, I'm here because I spoke to John over at 123 Towing, and he actually referred me over to you and told me to introduce myself to you because I'm currently with Globe Life Liberty National Division, my man. And what we do is we've been working with John over at 123 Towing, and they told me to speak to you. So what we do, though, is we work with employers and helping them provide valuable benefits to their employees while creating a tax savings for your company at no cost to the business whatsoever. It only takes a few minutes to show you how we were able to help him. Is now a good time, right? So now that we understand the fundamentals of how to approach gatekeepers using the referral, the second piece is how do we talk to decision makers? We got that covered. But I really want to make sure that you don't forget the facts. Okay. Now let's talk real quick about the recap, right? Ask for referrals consistently. Remember the data, it doesn't lie. Let that be what drives you to getting more results in the field, right? 91% of people are willing to give them. Why are we not asking? 84% of business to business decision makers start the buying process from a referral. Why are we not collecting them, right? So a couple of things I also wanted to point out. Please be sure to role play this. It's not something that you're going to be, I role play before you go into a business that you got referred over to. Referrals are great, but if you're going in cold, right, without having warmed up or practiced, it definitely does put it puts a decrease on the probability. I know I made a mistake here on the recap. Our goal is to get to 45 closes a week on a 4-week average by April 1st. Don't please ignore the August 16th. That's quite a bit of a runway. We want to get it done by April 1st. With all that being said, team, again, that's all I've got for you today. I want to open it up for questions, comments, or even hand it over to Brian to see if he's got anything more to add to what we've got today. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. That was good. Yeah, definitely want to open it up for any questions. I have 2:51 on my clock, so we've got a few minutes. Bruce, one of the things I was reminded when you were going through this, I don't know what the percentage of referrals obtained that are contacted turn into closes, but this is what I know. We have 2,500 companies that we currently do business with. Bruce talked about getting 3 referrals from every existing customer. Well, guys, that would be 7,500 referrals. If we got 3 from the 2,500, that would be 7,500 referrals. If we contacted that 7,500 again, I don't know the number, but I would have to guess there's probably another 1,000 cases that we would close minimum. I mean, that would be 1 in 7. I don't know that it wouldn't be higher. I don't know that we wouldn't close 30%. We may double the number of cases. There may be 2,100 that would come from getting 3 referrals from 2,500 companies. And here's the other thing. I was thinking about Schneider on here. There was a conversation we had a while back on an enrollment that went bust. And how many of y'all have shown up for an enrollment and it didn't produce what you thought it should produce? You wrote one app. You sat there for 1 hour, 2 hours, wrote one out, wrote nothing, got rescheduled, whatever happened. But Snyder, you had one that kind of turned bust, but you collected referrals while you were there and then went and closed the dadgum case that turned into an enrollment. And so, even a case that I have that may not produce the premium that I'm expecting from the enrollment, if it produces the referrals, it still has a lot of value and maybe even more value than what it's going to produce on a re-enroll. So I
Brian, I
thought
wanted
that
to
was
add
really
something that
big.
just happened this morning when I was in the field. Uh, Daniel and I went out to a business. Our gatekeeper happened to be the sales manager of that business. And of course, he was, pretty adamant about figuring out what we did. And he stepped us into the office and we were able to find out that his cousin owns an Ace hardware store out of DeBerry, Florida. I mean, you just never know who you're talking to that has family that also owns a business. That's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to make sure that we emphasized asking for referrals. What's the worst that can happen? They're going to tell you, I don't know anyone right off the top of my head right now, but as long as we do our part in making it a daily practice to get someone to go to, I promise you, it's almost a guarantee that 6 months from now, your career will exponentially project itself for amazing things. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
and it
no-brainer.
feeds itself, right, Bruce? If I get three from every case I have, and it adds another 1,000 cases, well, next year I've got 3,500 cases giving me three. Now I get 10,000. And if I get 30, you see what I'm saying? It feeds itself. So
I mean, think
getting
about
into
it.
the habit.
We talk about self-sufficiency all the time, right? Self-sufficiency isn't just about knowing your scripts. Self-sufficiency is also knowing how to prospect, and then self-sufficiency is also knowing how to go back to your resources that you currently have and how to be able to maximize the next opportunity from those resources. I think that's another very valid point of how we're going to help you become more self-sufficient in creating opportunity for yourself is making sure that you understand that the referral gathering is an amazing practice for you and your business.
Hey, Bruce, who was that? What was that sales manager's name whose cousin owned Ace Hardware? Gabriel sent me a text. He wrote that down. Ace Hardware in DeBerry,
Whoa,
but he
whoa,
needed to
whoa,
know
whoa. Hold
who
on. That's why I
referred
didn't
him.
disclose that information.
All right. All right. Any questions, guys? Any questions? I'm looking around the room. Just unmute your mic if you got a question, comment, maybe a scenario you walked into.
I got some.
All right, Daniel.
All right, a little bit to feed into the why. So I know our mindset will be into going into these businesses, and sometimes referrals don't even cross our minds in some of these opportunities. But the more that we capitalize on the why, this is important. And knowing the facts is awesome because actually I went to this church. It was called a Live Church. It was actually part of the Orlando Mall, and I learned a fact. It was. Let me ask you a question. How many of you guys go to church? Raise your hand. How many of you guys go to church? Okay. How many of you guys went to that church because somebody invited you? All right. So 80% of people, of new members of a church, is because somebody invited them. Right. So that statistic is just like it's just like business. So sometimes it takes knowing, like if I'm a business owner and it's a lot easier to, you know, make a decision on something if it's like keeping up with the Johnsons, you know, man, like I just needed that extra push. Maybe there's something that maybe John at this business that I know that, um, that it did for them that I don't even know about. There's something about it. So that I like to think of it as like the church thing. 80% of people of new churchgoers have been invited by somebody.
Can you
Yeah,
can
that's
you
good.
believe that? I think we just talked about it. 84%. It's very similar to that concept. 84% of business to business decision makers start the buying process from a referral. It's human nature. It's when you name drop and you have that relation, like that ability to relate and say, hey, you never know. A business owner could be seeing that this business has beautiful trucks and they're getting a lot of success and that happened to be the business that you're partnered with and you got great results and now they're referring you to that business. they're going to try to align themselves with what that business is doing as well. So I mean, again, it's super important, man. I appreciate you bringing that up, Daniel. That's a
That's
great
good stuff.
statistic. Falls in line
Good
with
stuff.
what we're talking about.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
Come on,
Anything
baby.
to add? No? All right. Well, guys, let me leave you with something real quick before we jump off here. Just a couple of I know a lot of y'all are in the field this week because of the holidays. May not have had a chance to review this with ADs. As a matter of fact, ADs, I just got an email last week on this, and I don't even think I forwarded this out, but for convention for 2025's numbers, today ends 2025. So today's weekend, our last week ends today at 4:30. That will be added to last week's, which is last year's AP. Starting 4:31 p.m. today, starts your first week of submit for 2026. Now,
Come
understand
on.
this. What you earn today that counts for last year's production, when you look at ICM, it's really your first paycheck in 2026. So everything will reset on ICM this week. It's your first, this past week's pay will be your first week 2026, but your past week's production will be your last week 2025. A little bit complicated. Get with your leadership team. You got questions. Here's the other thing. Guys, everybody listen, especially ADs. Bonus threshold goes to 1,600 next year. That means 431 today, 1,500 does not put you in bonus. It's another $9 application or another $2.40 a week or whatever it is. But it goes from 1,500 2025 to 1,600 2026. So I'm just putting that out there because we're going into the 2026 production. The new threshold takes effect today at 431, moving forward for next week's week ending January the 5th or whatever next Friday is. So, ADs, if you have a question, reach out to me or Bruce on that, and we'll make sure that you have clarity on it. I'll also find that email and make sure we blast it out. Besides that, no recap on Thursday. Y'all have a safe New Year's Day. Next Zoom we'll have our Friday agency, our Monday morning leaders library, our Monday afternoon part 2 to today's training, and hopefully we'll get some referrals. Bruce, we need to talk about a referral contest in
Oof. That's
January.
what I was itching to
After,
say, baby.
yeah, after this
About to throw some money
deal.
out there. I
So
love it.
yeah, I think if every AD gave 10,000, we could give away like 100,000 in January.
Oof. Come on.
All right, Jordan, you like that? I see that smile behind those.
Woo!
All right, Bruce, let's get together about a contest for real. We'll put something
Love
together.
it.
Besides that, love you guys. Appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you on Friday.
Love everybody.
Love you too, brother. See you, man.
Love, man.